You're welcome. Thank you. As I said, you're watching Word of Life with me, Brenda Mahooro, and today we have Reverend Dismas Bwesigye, and we're going to be talking about stress and mental health. Are you going through some things that you're not understanding? Just know that you're going to get well explained, and we are sponsored by Protea Hotel, Marriott Entebbe for swimming pool, a spa and sauna, all those things I talked about. And Reverend is going to be taking us through stress and mental health. You're very welcome, Reverend.
Thank you, Brenda.
Very happy to have you on the show today on Word of Life. Our people, we get a lot of comments out there, and they're like, that Reverend Banange, how can I get him? How can I get his number? I have these things and these things that I'm going through. But don't worry. You're going to get a number from Reverend in case you're going through those things that sometimes you send your message in that you're going through this and this. Yes, he has that knowledge, and he will be explaining to you all the things that you will need to know.
Yes, I will.
So, Reverend, today we're going to be talking about stress and mental health. Can you take us back on the things that, because the other time we talked about, first of all, we talked about understanding mental health, and then we came and talked about how to deal with it and how to go about it. So can you take us back on what we last explained the other time on Thursday, last Friday?
Last Thursday when we spoke about childhood problems.
Yeah.
We call them adverse childhood experiences, and how these affect us in the rest of our lives. I still emphasized on that day that all of us are candidates. All of us have need to take care of our mental health. That mental health issues are not only thought about when you have a mental illness. I spoke about how mental illness is a continuum where we are at one end of the continuum. We are mentally healthy, and at another place we end up mentally ill. And so I tried to show us that, look, we cannot say when we're speaking about mental health, those people and these people, that we all need to take care of our mental health. And so I spoke about some of the things that we need to consider, that in the first 5 years of a child's growth, that is when a person needs to focus on we need to focus on helping a child to feel accepted, to feel loved, to feel attached to. And we also spoke about the possibility that even if you didn't get these things when you were young, if somebody pays attention to you, somebody fills you with the love and the acceptance, you can get better. That mental illness is not permanent. We can get better.
Wow. Yes, and in case you missed that show, just go on our social media platform, that is COU Family TV, our YouTube channel, and you will get it right there. What is stress? We want to understand, what does stress mean? And Reverend, does stress has the same meaning as anxiety?
Anxiety and stress. Anxiety is something different altogether. Anxiety is a fear that comes to us, but we cannot know and place the reason that is causing us fear. We'll get anxious about somebody who is not around. We'll get anxious about things that are deep down within ourselves. And stress is a different thing altogether. Stress is a God-given tool. I think God had a purpose for stress within our lives. Now, I'll give an example. If you are sick, you break your leg, and you don't use it for a long time, it becomes shorter. What they say is it atrophies, the muscles atrophy, and they become smaller, and then the leg becomes lame because you're not using it. But when we use our muscles a lot, when we exercise, our muscles become bigger. They say they hypertrophy, they grow bigger. And that's what stress does to us. You might remember a time when you were doing your examinations. For most of us, we couldn't read well enough until the examination timetable goes up. So the stress helps us to focus ourselves and be able to do what we need to do. Stress was given to us as as a tool that God gave it to us to sort of protect. The perception of stress was supposed to help us, to protect us. That once you receive that stress, then you are able to focus on that stress only and push all the other things aside. Stress is that pushes us beyond the normal limits and gets us to a certain point. So there's good type of stress, and that is called eustress. The good stress that helps us to pass our examinations, that helps us to care for our families, to do a little bit more so as to get ourselves prepared to live this life. Then there's the bad stress that is called the distress. This distress messes us up. It makes us feel unable to do anything, and sometimes it takes us to the point of being overwhelmed.
Wow. Reverend, I want to believe that there's a lot of stress out there. There is the physical stress, there is the emotional stress, like a lot of stress out there. So what are those symptoms like when someone has, like you feel, okay, this one is stressed?
Some of the other symptoms that you'll have of excessive stress within yourselves are the feelings within yourself of extreme fear within yourself, and sometimes there are feelings where you are very high and very low. Sometimes you feel totally depressed, a sadness that you cannot imagine. You feel like crying and you don't know why you want to cry. You feel as if nothing seems to be going right. When you begin to see yourself eating too much or eating too little, appetite loss, that might be one of the symptoms that you are suffering from, the symptoms of stress. Feelings of excessive anger within yourself, irritation and anger. Something small happens to you, you are driving and somebody crosses in front of you and you get so angry and you lean on the horn. That might be a sign that you are stressed out in other things. When you begin to get strange thoughts within yourself, delusions and things that are not actually there, but these things seem to be happening within your life, then you can, those might be one of the things that indicate that you are overly stressed. When you begin to see things that are not there, those are called hallucinations, where you're seeing things that are not actually there, but you feel that they are actually there. That might be a sign that you're now getting to that point of overwhelm where you will need help from somebody else. When you begin to fail to cope with what you need to do, you come to work and everything seems to be excessive for you. You had targets that you were supposed to reach and you cannot reach these targets anymore. You feel that you need help from somebody else, but you cannot find that help. When you find that you want to be alone, you want to separate yourself from other people, you feel more comfortable at home. I want to be in my own room. Even when you get to the home and there are other people in the home, you go to your room and you do everything you want to do in the room. Then you begin to think, yes, maybe this stress has got to me where I am supposed, in a place where I'm not supposed to be. When you begin to think, maybe it might be better for me to end it all. Maybe it might be better for me to die. I think death must be more comfortable than the place I am in now. I'm in quite a bad place, and I think death must be more comfortable than this. I need to rest. Those are suicidal thoughts. When you start getting that, then you know that you are moved towards that point of overwhelm. When you begin to have these numerous problems. You've been to the doctors over and over again saying, I need a scan here, I've got a pain in this area, I've got a pain in this area, I feel my heart is beating and I think I have a problem. But every time you go to the scans and do everything, they come out clear saying you are perfect, you have got a heartbeat of a child, you've got the pressure of a child, you've got your blood sugar levels are the best they can ever be, but still you feel there's something wrong within yourself. Then you know, I'm tending towards that place where I might need help. When you find that you need something to support you, you started off slowly by taking a painkiller. Before you knew what is happening, you're taking some alcohol and you're using drugs and abusing drugs to help you to cope with the place in life. Then you know the stress has got you to the place where you begin to need help to support yourself.
Reverend, if we've gotten all these indicators that you've talked about, what causes all these things in our lives?
You see, as I was telling you earlier, when the Lord was creating our brains, He made our brains in such a way that they are supposed to protect us from external forces that can harm us. If I see an animal that's going to hurt me, this came after the fall. Before that, all the animals, the lion and the lamb and everything, used to lie together. But after the fall, there were things that could harm us. So if there's something that can harm us, let's say there's a lion that comes to us, our mind begins to say, can I fight it? If I can fight the lion, then I puff myself up. You've seen a chicken chasing a dog. They puff themselves up and chase the dog because the adrenaline and noradrenaline and cortisol are flowing within the person's body, and they give them that strength. All the energy is sent to the muscles to give the person energy to fight that animal. Then if I cannot fight, I am taught how to flee, how to run fast. We become faster than the fastest athletes when we are in fear. During the war in the 79, there was a woman who we found in Lugazi. She had run all the way from Kampala to Lugazi, and she still had the knife that she used to peel bananas. She was still holding it in her hand, and she was unaware that she was still holding it in her hand because the adrenaline was excessive that was flowing through her body. And so you're able to run longer distances, you're able to run faster to flee that is harming you. If you cannot run, you cannot fight, then your brain tells you, now pretend that you are dead. Freeze. So you freeze, and that helps you. When you're going to step a snake and you freeze, the snake will slither by safely and you will not be harmed. There's another one too that happens to us, one of those protective things that happens to us, and that is fawning. You will notice an animal that's being attacked. If you look at rats, for instance, when they're being attacked by a cat, when a cat has caught one, even when the cat looks as if it's not interested in it, the rat continues moving towards the cat. They believe that if I behave well to the cat, it's going to become a friend of mine and it will not harm me. And this is what happens in homes where people are being abused. A person is being abused, but they are friends. They will support the person who is abusing them. They'll try to be kind to them, hoping that by being kind to them, the person will begin to treat them well. If he's my friend, he will not harm me. So those are the things. The brain was created to hold that. Now, this was supposed to happen for a short while. You get a trouble, you run away, and then you get better. But when this lasts for a long time, you are under trouble for a long time, you are living in a battle zone, then your brain becomes overwhelmed. These chemicals, because when these chemicals flow within our body, first of all, they stop us from doing the ordinary things they were supposed to do. Digestion, reproduction.
Even digestion.
Even digestion. That's why we end up with stomachs that make funny sounds when we are frightened. Our speech center, the Broca area within the center, goes offline. That's why you hear of a phrase they call silent horror. When you're so frightened, the voice cannot come out. It's as if there's a potato in your throat. Yes, and that is because the Broca area of the brain has been put offline. And so because the body needs to preserve energy and send it to the muscles, other parts of the body are not getting enough. So we end up having those results of the stress. So all the results of the stress are because we are trying to manage the crisis that is within our lives. And this is supposed to happen for a short time, not for a long time. So the people who suffer from stress are people who have had stress, either a lot of stress at the same period of time, or a lot of stress for a long period of time, prolonged stress, and those are the people who struggle with stress.
So, Reverend, if I do not deal with this prolonged stress that you've talked about, how does it affect my body, or how does it affect my emotional bit of it all, and the psychological bit, like even the social part? How does it affect me if I do not deal with it at hand?
That is a good question. How does stress affect me over a long period of time? Physically, it does affect us. At the microscopic level, the stress has got a way in which it affects the energy levels in the cell itself, the mitochondrial growth and numbers. Within our cells, there are small parts of the cell called the mitochondria that give energy. they use the amino acids, the fatty acids, and change them into adenosine triphosphate. We don't need those terms. But what I'm trying to say is at that cellular level, our cells give us energy. But when we are too stressed, then we are unable to get that energy. We become weaker. We become, our bone density decreases. We begin to get those diseases that are related to the heart, the cardiac things, hypertension. We begin to get issues like diabetes because we are not digesting properly, all these other things that happen to us. But on top of that, we begin to become fearful. We begin to be alert about everything that is happening in the society. When something walks past our window at night, we are worried the whole night. We cannot sleep at all. So our sleep disappears. And because we don't sleep, we get tired. And because we get tired, then there are a lot of other issues that are concerned. We become alert. We become exhausted. We don't want to deal with anything else at all. So we find ourselves crying because we feel we are overwhelmed. So these are some of those same things that happen to us because of having prolonged stress within our lives.
So how do I manage it? If maybe
how do I manage it? And that is the an important one. You see, managing stress begins. You begin from somewhere that is small. Look at how stress is dealing within your lives. One of the things that is really important in our lives is taking a rest from everything else. And you know,
what if the kind of job does not allow me to take rest from everything else? Then it requires me to be there very early in the morning. By 8 I have to be there. It requires me to overwork myself. I have to meet deadlines. This is the kind of job that I have. So it cannot even allow me to have a break for myself.
Give me a call and I come and speak to your boss, because one thing your boss doesn't know, he doesn't understand.
But you will leave us your number so that
yes. So one of the things that your boss doesn't understand is when you are healthy, then you'll be more productive. In fact, you'll do much more than when they put you under stress. I know there are places that have a very hard regimen. There's one of the banks that has a branch in Oasis Mall, and that branch, they work all the way up to 9 o'clock. People do not have a life, they do not meet anywhere. It's actually a surprise when you hear a member of that bank actually is getting married, because where do they meet people?
In the bank.
The customers who come in. Then that shows you that I need still to talk to their boss, to tell him that, look, the people are spending the time that they should be working, looking for partners during the work hour. No, the thing. Seriously, the thing is, we need to take care of ourselves. And it's not a good habit of Ugandans to take holidays, for instance. Most of us, even when we are given leave, we'll go back to our home, our farms, and we'll work even harder than we were working during the thing. It's not our culture to set aside money to say, let me take a holiday. In fact, if you ask most people, I remember when I went to Mukono to study, I found this girl. She was 16 years old. She lived in Mukono. Mukono is, I think, around 15 kilometers from Kampala, but she had never been to Kampala. 16 years old, she had never been to Kampala. She had never been to Lugazi. She only lived around her area. I wanted to give her a lift. 16 years old. I wanted to take her in a taxi, bring her to Kampala, and take her back to Mukono and drop her where she understands, because she has never been anywhere. There are plenty of people in Uganda. There was a time when I was not in the country, and somebody was saying, you people are lucky, you get to see these things face to face. The people out there think that there are giraffes and zebras and elephants roaming down our streets. Says you're lucky that you have seen them. And I told them that, do you know that 90% of Ugandans have never seen a giraffe? Because we don't move. Our national parks are actually for foreigners. Even our own zoo, so close to us, there are a good number of people who have never been to the zoo. So we don't take time to relax. We don't take time to have a holiday. And this is one of the things that will help us to distress. Go to a place where you can relax, where you can rethink your life, where you can be comfortable.
How does it help us? You know, Reverend, sometimes we have this mentality that for you to get that holiday, usually see where it's coming from. America, Australia, coming to Queen Elizabeth, coming to like these national parks and having their blast. So we have this mentality that for you to have that holiday, or for you to take yourself for ice cream, to give yourself a treat, you have to have that money.
Oh yes, that's what people think. But I tell you, you can have fun even without the money.
Yeah.
Even without the money. Take a walk. Go to a beautiful place. Sit up there. If you live around Kololo, just take a walk up, look at people's beautiful houses and thank God for the beautiful houses. Look at the flowers and enjoy yourself. It's possible to have fun without. And you spoke about an important thing, me time. A lot of people in this world need to be given permission to love themselves.
Sometimes some people don't understand me time.
Yes, and I'll explain me time. Me time is focusing on yourself. You cannot give to others what you do not have. You cannot say have peace when you don't have the peace yourself. So me time is focusing on yourself so that you can rebuild yourself, so that you can have more energy in yourself, and then you will be able to give it to others. So for most people who think a lot about others, they end up spreading themselves out too thin. So they end up irritable, they end up angry, they end up actually with no peace at all on the inside. And when you don't have peace on the inside, the people can see it, they can feel it. Children are very good. If you walk with children in a place where there are children, if children do not come towards you, then go back and check on yourself and see, am I irritable? Am I giving up those negative vibes that the children can sense and can tell that I'm not the right person to be next to? And a lot of us are like that. A lot of us are going through stress. And I explained some of this last week when I was speaking about adverse childhood experiences. There are people who work so hard, not because they want to work so hard, but because they have something to prove. Their aunt told them, you will amount to nothing. You will never be anybody. I know you have passed this one, but let's see if you will get a job. So when they get a job, even if the job is not the right fit for them, they will struggle within that job to keep there so as to prove to other people that they are okay. And that is really sad. One of the things about jobs is the job should be the right fit for you. I think it's okay for you even to leave your job and say, no, I don't think this is working for me.
Even when it's paying me well.
It's paying you well, but it's stressing you out. It's killing you. And you see, this is why it's important for us to speak about mental health and stress in this way, because every time we get that stressed, that is toxic, we are killing ourselves. We are dying. And there are plenty of people who are dying, who are sitting in big offices, but they are dead. Dying slowly. They have no fun. Their life has become messed up. They are accompanied to the toilet. There's somebody with a gun that accompanies them to the toilet, and away from the toilet, they cannot eat food comfortably because they fear they are going to get poisoned. They are not living the abundant life that Christ promised us. He said, I've come so that you can have life and life abundant. And he was not speaking about up in heaven. He was speaking about here on earth. There are plenty of people who don't enjoy their life. How will you enjoy your life if from Monday to Sunday you are working those excessive hours? And why did you make that mistake of proving to your boss that you are indispensable, that you are the only one who can do that job, so that they cannot release you? Give him reasons to feel that he can leave you and give you some holiday once in a while. It's important that we get sufficient rest within ourselves, because if we don't get rest within ourselves, we will not live to the 120 years that were allotted to man.
Wow.
That were allotted to man. We have a whole 120 years that we are supposed to live on earth, and we will not live it if we allow ourselves to be stressed out this way.
But there are some people who live their life like, you talked about fun. Even they have never even experienced fun. They don't know even what fun is. Their life is all about making their life like very hard. They don't know even the last time they got a smile.
And that is the person I'm talking to today. If you do not have a smile, if your job is not giving you a smile, you don't need it.
They take things serious.
You don't need
even
it.
Their job tells them you have to take things serious. There's no time for laughing. There's no even time for engagement. You have to be busy. You have to be here from Monday up to Sunday. But I think the kind of life that maybe sometimes we are living, we are more stressed of the economy. I have to make ends meet. Maybe even there are some people who are stressed. They have their mothers who are sick. They have to take their sisters at school, their brothers at school. So they have a lot on their mind, and the only thing they can think of is their job, and they have to take things serious, Reverend.
I can assure you, these problems will never end. As soon as you've finished one problem, it will go to his friends and tell them, I have left her, please go back and engage her now. The problems will never end. And if you try to do that, to complete the problems first before you enjoy your own life, I tell you, you're going to die before you have got to that point where you achieve happiness within your own life. We need to reprioritize, to sit down and think, why is this important to me? You know, we keep a lot of things. We have a lot of things. I was asking you, Brenda, before we started, how many phones you had, and you told me you have 2. And why you really need 2 phones, I really don't know. But still, there are some people who have more than that. There's some people who have 10 phones in the house. There's some they won't throw away. Why don't you throw it away or give it to somebody else who doesn't have it? So, it has some sentimental value. And we are keeping a lot of clutter in our home because we are frightened of getting poor again. The fear of getting poor is driving people to overwork themselves. So instead of enjoying ourselves, having a humble life, you don't need a smartphone. But even if you do need it for communication purposes and the rest of it, you don't need a 6.7 or 7 million shillings worth phone. You can do as well with a 150,000 shillings phone. So when we start driving ourselves to achieve that, we want to prove to others that we are okay. Then we stress ourselves out. When we learn how to relax, I had an opportunity of visiting Israel, and I tell you, we were in a conference, a very important conference. But when we were being addressed by the director came in shorts. He came in shorts and in a t-shirt, and with a cap, and he was so calm. He didn't have a suit.
All of you guys,
all of us were in suits. We were struggling,
sweating.
Yes, sweating. It's very hot there. Some places it gets to 40 degrees, and we were struggling in there. But for him, he was in his t-shirt and he was casual and his sandals. Yes, and so we have driven ourselves to a point
addressing multitudes of people,
addressing important people. I was one of them, least important in that place, but and that was happening. That was happening in that place. It's realizing that you are not. It's not your dress that is worth, or what you put on that is worth something. It is who you are. And once we begin, because he says, he actually tells us, cast all your burdens unto me, for I'll care for you. He wants to carry these burdens for us. He doesn't want us to carry these burdens everywhere we go. He doesn't want us to struggle. He wants to be there with us and care for us. As long as we continue to hanker after the material things, the worldly things, we will get stressed.
Wow. Yes, talking about the material things, you're going to talk more of the phone, because phones have really contributed much of the stress. Marriages are failed out because of phones. I know of there is that girl who killed herself because she was bullied on social media. Things happened and it did not go well because of the phone, social media comments here and there. So she took her life, and she was like, okay, I have to end all this. We talked about on material things, and we talked about phones. I talked about phones, and these phones have really killed a lot of people. Social media has killed people because of the comments and bully that is on social media. People have failed to cope with the stress that is on social media. Marriages have failed because of phones, these material things. And another thing you're going to talk about is the bosses. Sometimes the bosses say that you're working, your ministry doesn't have money to pay the workers, all those things. So you're going to be talking about all those things and how to manage the phones in marriages and in our day-to-day life.
And Thank you. That's really true. One of the things about phones is actually they are now a new factor. In fact, they are being included in one of those things that we use for diagnosing mental illness, and the phones are beginning to appear as a category within them. The phones force us to try and fit, and we are trying to beat the Jones. We are always trying to be better than the other person. You can see the TikTokers. The TikTokers, there was one that was a group that was out recently. They claimed they were going to take people's men, and then eventually they had to apologize. And they said, we only did it to get likes on TikTok. And so phones are driving us to do things not for because we want to do them, but because we want to get likes. And so we spend a lot of time in our offices taking selfies to update our photos. Some of us are on chats. Yeah. You're on a school chat, you're even on your nursery school chat. And some of the chats, by the end of the day, you have 750 messages. And somebody should pay you to read your messages. Somebody should pay you to update your profile on Facebook and elsewhere. It's a lot of work. And if they were paying you, you'd be actually very rich. Some people would be richer than others because their profiles are always up to date. And so these things stress us out. I keep telling people, what will it hurt you if you to go to one of the chats, like let's say your nursery school chat or your primary school, even the secondary school, even university chat, and you say select all and then mark them as read or delete them all? What will happen to you? Will you die?
No, you won't.
I tell you, even your official mail, if you say all read or delete them all, yes, you'll get in trouble with your boss. But the thing is, we don't need the stress that the electronic media is putting into our lives. Even the news itself. One of the things that we gave a holiday to in our home was news, excessive news. News became terrible. News became a place where you see horrible things. There was a time when I was watching one of the Ugandan TV programs, and they had in Luganda, it was late in the evening, and they had 3 lynchings on that very same day. I said, this is not good for my spirit. I can't go to sleep with those images of death, with those images of suffering in my mind, and I removed them from myself. There's no reason why I should. Okay, some people say you need to know so that you can pray for the people. Pray for the people in Syria, pray for the people in Ukraine and the rest of it. No, I know in Ukraine they are suffering, and I said, dear Lord, watch over your world, and I live my life. I cannot hold that stress, the stress of everybody else. And that's why we need me time. That's why we need to concentrate on ourselves so that we can be okay. You asked another question is, how can the bosses, and this is one of the mistakes that we make, especially in ministry. People who work in church, for instance, the musicians, the rest of the people who are playing an important role in the church, are valuable members of the church. Long time ago, when God decided to do this, he said in the temple, he put aside money. There was no inheritance of the Levites within they did not give them land. But they said everybody in the other tribes is going to give a small portion so that they can have an inheritance too. So the tithe was meant so that I don't have to go out and struggle to look for something to do. Because if I do it, when will I be doing the work of God? And that tithe was supposed to be for the priests and God's Anawim, God's poor people. The poor on the streets, the widows and the orphans, those people that God is concerned about, so that they never go hungry. But what happens now? You get a worker and you give them 80,000 shillings a month in a church, and yet you are storing billions of shillings on your bank accounts, and that is totally wrong. Telling people that do this is ministry, that is totally wrong. You need to pay a person just dues for what they are doing. They say, do not muzzle the ox. Do not muzzle the ox. People need to eat where they work. And this is one of the stressors. You cannot work for 80,000 shillings yourself.
You can't.
And then why are you giving it to somebody else altogether?
In the name of ministry.
In the name of ministry. Say, go, God will bless you. And that is wrong. I tell you, we'll get to the gate and people will be there, say, you remember how much you gave the other person, how you troubled my person.
And then you stored billions.
Yes, and stored billions. Actually, Matthew 25:35 speaks about it. It says, go to the place, you gods go to the place that was meant for Satan and the rest. But anyway, let me not dwell on that one. The important thing within our lives is we need to try and live full lives, Brenda. We need to live full lives. If you are not happy in your life, if there's no joy in your life, then rethink what is happening. Reset your priorities. It's not about the houses. It's not about the cars. It's not about, but it's more about the peace you have within yourself. I met this woman in Rakai. I worked in Rakai some time ago. And there was this woman who used to have nothing at all. Her house had a door that had a big hole in it. You could sit in the house and see everything that was going on the outside. But this woman was happy. She always had a smile on her face. She always had something to give to other people. And you notice that the most generous people are the people who do not have much.
Why?
They
are contented.
There is a contentment that they have within themselves. And I think this is the important thing, to learn to be contented. And how do we get contented? To get contented, you need to learn how to count your blessings. There was a song that used to be, count your blessings, name them one by one. When we don't count our blessings, it's easier for us to look at the blessings of our neighbor. So if you have a Raum in your home, then you look over your fence, then you start looking at the person's Mercedes and you say, oh dear Lord, you have blessed him with a Mercedes Benz, and the Lord will add him another, because the Lord loves a cheerful. In Luganda they say, the one that does not thank does not get given. So now you are thanking on behalf of the other person, and the Lord will continue to bless him because of that. And for you, he won't bless you because you don't know. If we sat down and say, what am I thankful for? Brenda, just look at your own life and ask, what am I thankful for? There are plenty of things. I can name some of them for you. You have a job. You look good. You are planning to do something important the coming year. I will not let the cut out of the bag for your viewers. But there are a lot of things that you have in life that you can thank the Lord for. We need to have an attitude of gratitude, to be grateful. And there are plenty of other things. He gave you school. He helped you to go through school. He helped you to have people who support you, who will call you when you're sick. And there are a lot of things. I also have them. Making a list of the things that we are grateful for is one of the things that will help us to reduce the stress in our lives, to reduce the fear that maybe for us we are unfortunate, we don't have much. Because we do have a lot, but we don't, sometimes we forget. And that's the nature of our brain. Our brain does not know how to store up remembrance of the things that we have. You might you might want that phone, the iPhone 14, and you go and deposit on it. It costs, I think, 7 million shillings, I don't know. So you pay some money, and you won't be able to sleep until you have completed the money. Once you manage to finish the money and carry it with you home, on the way as you're going home, you see somebody. It. No, they might not snatch it. You might be lucky enough they don't snatch it. But you start seeing your neighbor's phone that is taking better selfies than yours. And then now your mind, the iPhone 14 is no longer an important thing. You now begin to look at Huawei's and others, and you say, wow, I wish my thing could. And before long, you are abandoning your iPhone 14 that you bought that expensively at a distance, and it's now an ordinary thing. So our mind does not know how to keep and store the sense of gratitude within ourselves. We have to intentionally work at it, at thanking, say, thank you, God. I really appreciate you for your care for me. Yes. Wow.
And people, what they have failed to understand, that these are gadgets. Today they are bringing iPhone 14. To the other one they're bringing iPhone 15. That is what we have failed to understand. Yes. So, Reverend, before even we get done, you talked about the me time, the tight marking before we began the show, and I loved how you do it with your wife.
I was telling you about my wife. Both me and my wife, our fingerprints open each other's phones. Yes. And that means I know the password of her phone and she knows the password for mine. I know her ATM number. She knows my ATM number.
Things that we stress.
And so, yes, I don't see why I should be stressed. I have access to her phone anytime I want. I stay with her in the same room. She's my roommate. So if I wanted to read through all her messages, I'll just wait for her to start. I don't know whether she snores or not. But when she starts sleeping, I can pick up her phone and read it. But you see, there are things that we need to be careful about. Don't stress yourself out. Don't overanalyze each message. Because you say, why did she say dear here? Why didn't she say sir? And then that will stress you out. My wife knows where I am currently. She knows where I'll be after I leave here. And she knows where the other things I'm going to do or the whole day.
Yeah.
Others call it tight marking, but for me, I feel glad because I know there's somebody who cares about me, who wants to know where I am. If something happens to me, I know at least she'll know how to trace my path and find me. We care about each other and love each other.
My sister says that that is like grazing me.
Oh yes, but later on in time, talk to your sister. She will want to be grazed when they are no longer even paying that much attention. She'll say, "Why is it that they are not paying attention to me?" But the most important thing about it is we were called to support each other. And that is one of the things that can help us to deal with stress when the community supports us. And that's what fellowship is good for. People who don't go for fellowship miss out on that. There is a community that is willing to stand with you. And if the fellowship leaders are good, they should give you time to sit down and share with somebody and share the issues. One of the things that causes a problem with stress and causes us to get overwhelmed is you're not having some way to release this information to somebody else. And there are people everywhere. There are church leaders, there are community leaders, there are friends, good friends. There are those type of friends that are not good. You know, when you start telling them, I have a loan of 1 million shillings, they say, oh, only 1 million. For me, I have 10 million shillings. That one is not going to be helpful for you. It's not going to help you at all. Get rid of that one and look for a friend who is going to support you when you are going through trouble. Yeah. You need somebody to talk to help you to deal with these things. Then there are professionals who you go to and they'll help you sort out most of these things. Yes.
Thank you so much, Reverend. You're just going to tell us like how to get rid of all this stress and focus on the important things, even maybe because you talked about the prayer that you usually have with your wife in the morning, and then you dedicate everything to God. So how do I get free of all the things? Because some people feel overwhelmed. They have these jobs that do not even allow them to get themselves their me time. They have these jobs that even does not get them out to get a holiday. They're into marriage and they feel like they have been entangled to this person. They have to explain their moves all the time. They feel like they have to be on social media and read every comment, everything that has been told them. They have friends, they feel like, oh my God, I don't know why did I choose these friends in all the friends that I have had? So how do I let go of the anxiety and stress and be me again and rejuvenate again?
You see, we read words in the Bible, and sometimes we think we have understood them, but we have not properly understood them. For instance, Matthew chapter 6, verse 25 says, "Do not worry. Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, or what you will wear. It is not life." And you see, once we learn how to surrender everything, then we'll have gone a good way. Sometimes we need support, we need a mentor, we need somebody to stand with us to help us with that. Another thing that we need to do is to spend our time finding a way in which we can enjoy the life, having laughter. When I spoke about enjoying life, I don't mean going to bars and staying out late and dancing and the rest of it, but being able to take time off and savor the beautifulness that God has given us. Do not dwell on hurts. If you've been hurt by somebody, my grandmother hurt me, and you keep it within yourself, you're carrying that monkey on your back everywhere. Somebody says unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting your enemy to die.
Yeah.
So you carry that pain, and it's actually really painful, and it has effects on us, physical effects eventually on us when we don't forgive. So practice forgiveness. Pray. Be in a place where you have that relationship with God that is a personal one. And so one of the things that we do at home in our type of prayer is we have a conversational prayer. We have conversational prayer. We pray as if we are talking to God, even when we're praying together. So I said, "Dear Lord, I thank you for my wife. I thank you that for what you have done. And I thank you for today, because today I'm going to Family TV, and though I don't have fuel in the car, I know somehow you will provide it. And somehow she'll get to know that I don't have fuel in the car. And if she has a car 50 there, she'll give it to me." And in that conversation, we get close to we get close to God, and we begin to release everything to God, to surrender things to God, to practice forgiveness. There are plenty of people who have hurt us, but these people have hurt themselves. To begin to see a silver lining behind everything. I'm suffering, but still, though I'm suffering, there is something good in this that has come. And once we are like that, I tell you, life will become better.
Amen. Reverend, you're going to give us a closing prayer as we are getting out here.
Okay. Dear Lord, I thank you. I thank you for the people who are listening, those who are watching. And I thank you for ourselves, for Brenda and all the people in the studio. I ask, Lord, that you bless us. Help us to deal with those bad feelings we have within our lives. Feelings that might have not been brought upon us ourselves, but some of them that might have been brought about by the sin that we have in our lives. Help us to live lives that are straight. Help us to live lives that are focused. But most of us, help us to rely more on you. Give us a sense, Lord, to love, and a sense of to love ourselves, because you told us that we need to love others as we love ourselves, and some of us don't love ourselves. Give us an opportunity to love ourselves enough to give ourselves me time, to take ourselves out for a drink, to take ourselves out for something nice, an ice cream, to buy ourselves new clothes and make ourselves feel good, because we know this will help us. Help us, Lord, to have a greater reliance on you, that we will not fret ourselves about anything, because you promised us that you will take care of all our things. And most of all, for those of us who do not know you, help us to find an opportunity to know you, to have a personal relationship between you, that we will learn from you and you will be our mentor. And help us also eventually to become good mentors to others, to model a life of abundance within our life, an abundance in joy and happiness. We might have nothing, but give us, dear Lord, a joy in our heart. You promised us, dear Lord, that you give sleep to those that you love. Lord, we pray that we'll have sufficient sleep, we'll have sufficient food, we'll have sufficient stuff within our lives, that we'll be able to have them for ourselves and also help others, so that the joy within ourselves might grow. We ask this all in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you so much for everyone who has been watching us. And think, Reverend, you're going to begin from here the next time we come. Carol said that this important point of fair payment and not ministry, it was a good point. So she wants to digest it well. Thank you so much. We love you so much. Thank you for watching Word of Life with me, Brenda Mahooro. Have yourself a beautiful day.